I'd like to call to order the April 26th virtual regular public meeting of the Highland Park Board of Education. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the Highland Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting setting forth the time, date, and location to be submitted for publication to the Home News Tribune and Star Ledger and posted on the board's website at least 48 hours in advance of the meeting. Members of the public who wish to address the board will be given the opportunity to do so before the board adjourns for the evening. During this meeting, we ask that all members of the public mute themselves unless they are speaking during a public comment period. If needed, we may mute you ourselves. You may leave your video on or off at your option. If we experience bandwidth issues and believe that limiting video could help, we may do so. We will have 2 public comment periods. If at that time you wish to speak, please raise your blue virtual hand in Zoom and wait for me to call on you. If you cannot raise your virtual hand, or if I miss your virtual hand, please turn on your video camera and raise your actual hand. New Jersey law requires us to inform you that all commenters must behave appropriately. In Highland Park, this means no screaming, obscenities, or inappropriate video displays. In the event of a speaker's inappropriate behavior, they will be muted and we will come back to them at a later time. If the speaker is the final commenter of the last final comment period, we will invite them later to return. We'll invite them to return at our next meeting. Okay, so Linda, could we take the roll, please?
Ms. Cimaresti, Ms. Coleman, Ms. Gowan,
Here.
Mr. Krieger,
Here.
Mr. Magaziner,
Here.
Ms. McFadden Nicola,
Here.
Ms. Bruce,
Here.
Mr. Roslevich, Mr. Woodward.
Here.
Thank you, Linda. Scott, could you put the flag up and we could do the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge
I
allegiance
pledge
to
allegiance
the flag
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the
and
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Oh, and Linda, Monique is here now.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Monique.
Hi, everyone.
So we had 2 communications. On April 18th, Rebecca Hirsch wrote about Wednesday instruction time. And on April 19th, Emily Tenenbaum wrote about these 2021 to 2022 school year plans. I just want to comment again for the public that if you would like communications to go to the board and to be on this list and have them read by all the board members and by the superintendent and by our board board secretary, which is Linda Hoffala, you need to send your emails, your communications to board@hpschools.net. If you send me an email, I'm president of the board, but I'm not the board. There are 9 members on the board, and we have a board secretary and we have the superintendent. Also, I wanted to say to everyone, notice that these communications lag about a week, sometimes depending up to 2 or 3 weeks, depending on when our next board meeting is. So communications we received 3 days ago, 4 days ago, 2 days ago, 1 day ago, will not likely be on this list. They will be, if you've addressed them to the full board at board@hpschools.net, they will appear on our agenda and they will be reviewed. You may get a response from a board president or vice president or from Dr. Taylor. I did want to say one more thing before I go into number 6, and that is the town is hosting a vaccination setup at the Reformed Church on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. And my understanding is that they have enough doses. They're still looking for people who need the vaccine. It's a Moderna vaccine. They're still looking for people who need the vaccine and you can still get slots if you have not been vaccinated yet. So because of the vaccines, the numbers are starting to go down, thank goodness. It means a great difference for our schools and our community and our country. So I beseech you, if you haven't, get your vaccine. You don't have to wait for weeks. You can apply today or tomorrow morning on the borough website, HP Borough website. You can sign up for an appointment on Wednesday. If you go to, and I have the address here, it is, I had the address here, but if you look up on the internet, the HP Vaccine Clinic, you'll see a place to sign up for it. So please do so if you need it and you haven't gone, and tell your friends. With that said, I'm going to go to number 6, which is approval of minutes. So these are minutes from March 15th, March 22nd, and April 19th. I'd like to move these, and after we get a second, we can get the board discussion on it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rob. Anybody on the board have any comments, questions, errors, or anything you'd like to bring up? Okay, seeing no hands up then. Linda, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Ms. Gowan,
Yes.
Mr. Krieger,
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner,
Yes.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola,
Yes.
Ms. Prus.
Yes.
Has Mr. Roslevich arrived?
I have not seen him.
Okay. Mr. Woodward?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are now up to the student representative report. Polly, you could take over and mute yourself. Hi, how are you tonight?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good, good.
Okay, so congrats to the third marking period freshman students at the high school. They got Student of the Month awards, Ethan Unger and Ruby Chavez. Congrats again to them. There's going to be a virtual Smash Bros tournament, which usually happens in person. This year it will be happening in Mr. McCrae's Zoom room on Monday, May 10th from 2 to 4 p.m. There were no updates at the middle school. And then at Bartle, the Bartle Student Council is celebrating neurodiversity this month. The Student Council encourages all students to watch age-appropriate videos to learn information about the autism spectrum. They also encourage students to participate in Going Red Instead by coloring the neurodiversity symbol rainbow colors. Students can print the symbol outline or draw their own and color it in, and they're encouraged to hang the symbols in their windows to show acceptance. And then at Irving, they're also celebrating neurodiversity this week by having a Spirit Week led by their ABA teaching staff, which will culminate at the end of the week with a bubble party and music on the playground this Friday. And then they also look forward to the plant sale sponsored by the Irving PTO on May 6th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and May 7th, 4 to 6 p.m. And then registration for next school year is in full swing. Just a reminder for families to view the website for more information. And that sums everything up.
Holly, thank you. Does any board members have any comments, questions?
I'm delighted to see Red Instead. So thank you, everybody, for that.
Yes, indeed. Anyone? Okay. Holly, again, thank you very much. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Taylor for the superintendent's report.
Well, I am very pleased that my entire report revolves around one student tonight, and that is a special student who's here to join us. I see he's got some significant others behind him, so you could wave so everybody in the room can see you. I'd like to introduce Miss Brady, the middle school principal, who's going to speak a little bit about this special young man. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Hi, Eric. So I am so pleased to be here tonight, and I will take the time to read what each of his teachers shared with me. But before I do that, I want to tell you, Eric, how this usually goes. Dr. Taylor reaches out to me. I reach out to Mr. Lobianco and Ms. Luxa and Ms. Suko and all the teachers, and I say, you know, anybody had a really good, you know, really special somebody? And Ms. Luxa, it took less than 2 seconds, and she was like, Eric Diamondstein. I said, yes. And she was so excited to honor you. And I could not be more proud to be speaking on her behalf and all of your teachers' behalf. So let me just share a couple of things that they said. Okay. So Miss Donatov, you are in her robotics club. She said that you are dependable, hardworking, and you use your strong communication skills to help others. Ms. Branchek said you are extremely hardworking, you take responsibility for your learning, and you come to office hours. You always try your best, and that you've come a long way since you came to the district at the beginning of the year. She said she adores you and that you would be her absolute first pick. I thought that was lovely. Ms. Lopez says, Eric has been a silver lining in this difficult year. His enthusiasm and positive attitude in class motivates others to do their best. He is always the first to come to class and the first to volunteer to help others who need help in solving a math problem or having technical difficulties. He is a joy in class, and I am proud to be his teacher. Miss Ducey. Now, Miss Ducey is a substitute for Miss Stern, so you've only known her for a couple of months, and she had such nice things to say, Eric. She said, I would love to add that Eric is an excellent class contributor when it comes to discussions on aspects of the novel and stories that we're reading. Eric isn't afraid to speak his mind and share his experiences with his class. He has made a point to reach out for assistance outside of class and has come to office hours to work on tasks. He is kind and respectful to both staff and to his peers. Ms. Luxa, I told you a little bit, but she said, Eric Diamondstein is a model student. He's caring toward his peers and encouraging others to do their best. He is kind and thoughtful to those around him, and he is a positive influence on Owl Period and on the Night Owl program. And then finally, Ms. Suko, our assistant principal, she said that Eric Diamondstein is frequently nominated for the middle school incentive program. So I don't know if you guys know, but we have an incentive program where we recognize students for academics, attendance, and just being caught in the act, doing something awesome that's without prompting. And he's been nominated for all of these things. And so Eric, once a student wins, this is cool, they get a choice of what they want as their prize, their reward. And instead of taking a homework pass or taking like another quiz or taking a quiz opportunity, dropping a low grade, he wanted a shout out from Dr. Taylor. So here we are. If you can even believe this, it kind of worked out perfectly because Eric requested this. He wanted this, Dr. Taylor.
Here's your big shout out. You're the man, Eric. You are the man.
I thought that was awesome. How perfectly fitting, right, Eric?
Yeah.
And on
Thank
that,
you.
You get this wonderful certificate that I signed. I'm going to frame and I'll send home to you. All right. Caitlin, that was fantastic. Eric and family, it's so wonderful to have you here in our family.
I'm thrilled to have him. It's an honor. And I have to say this, and I've said this to so many students, but I want to say this to you too, Eric. Like, don't ever think that these things that you're doing, to show up to class, to come to office hours, to be positive, don't think that they're not noticed. They're so noticed and so appreciated. And your teachers, it's been a hard year for them too. And the fact that you can brighten their day, it just warms my soul. So thank you, so much, because you bring so much to the table. So thank you.
Thank you.
I would say way to go, Eric. Good job.
So Eric, did you have your speech written down, or was it just something you were going to extemporaneously say?
I didn't know I had to write a speech.
No, I'm joking with you, buddy. It's great seeing you. So that concludes my report. And with that, actually, Mark, I just want to say a word or two when the Diamondsteins and Ms. Brady head out. You're welcome to leave at this point if you'd like, or you can stay, but we won't be offended if we don't see your name show up on our Zoom window.
All right,
So with
bye
that-
then. Thank you.
Have a wonderful night, everybody who's leaving us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You're
Thank
welcome. Take care.
You too.
So Mark and those who were here from the district community, a reminder that last board meeting, I made a lengthy and very detailed presentation about summer plans, fall plans, what the remainder of this year looks like. So I recommend that those who missed the meeting last week, check out the video recording, which is still posted on the page on our website page. I'll also be sending a Honeywell out this Wednesday, part of my weekly Honeywell message series that will echo some of what I said last week and also affirm how the remainder of this year is going to operate, repeating some of what I mentioned last week regarding wait lists and our attempts to try to get more kids into the school building. So that'll be coming out Wednesday night. That concludes my report, Mark.
Scott, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So this is the time for our first public comment period. The Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Board policies 164 and 167 establish and regulate the right of the public to participate in public meetings. So if you'd like to comment, please raise your hand. We'll call you in order. When you're called, please give your name and address. This first public comment period, because it has typically, especially during the pandemic, not been about our board business this evening, the items we're voting on. We are setting it to a 30-minute time period and 3 minutes per speaker. If you have more to say, you're welcome back at our second public comment period. Our agenda is rather short this evening, and we've reviewed it a week ago. So of course, if you want to say more, you're welcome to come back. I see one hand, Dan Mladnick, you can take the floor, please.
Hey, thank you. Dan Mladnick. I live at 216 Graham Street in Highland Park, and I have daughters in the Bartle and Ellen, the middle school, and I'm a psychology teacher and economics and personal finance teacher in the high school. And I think I might have, I may have made a mistake, but did you just say that I'm only supposed to comment on anything that you're about to vote on? Anything?
No, I said that since these are generally not about what we're voting on, we'd like to keep them relatively short, get to our agenda, and then you can say anything you want in the second period.
Okay, I'll try to get to the point. Thank you. I first want to say, well, that was a nice beginning to the meeting. It was very uplifting to see that recognition. And I want to say, as a teacher, I really enjoyed seeing that, even though I don't know Eric yet, but I look forward to meeting you in the high school someday. So, but I want to say thank you to all of you, to board members, to Dr. Taylor. It's been a very challenging year, and through it all, I know that you've worked very hard. You've given a lot of your time, your energy, your thought, and to really caring about the emotional well-being of our students. And it's something that I know I care deeply about as well. And one silver lining, and I shared this, I know that I mentioned this in one meeting that we had Dr. Taylor with in one of the committee meetings. I talked about one silver lining in the pandemic for me has been that I've seen firsthand how important it is for our teenagers to sleep better and to sleep later. I've seen how important that is. And, I would survey students just, informally over the years and see how much sleep they got. I did this last year, I remember, and I was shocked at how many students were getting sometimes 4, 5, 6 hours a night. And in this year, it's much better. I'm seeing much, much better data from the students. And, when I taught 8th grade, before I moved to the high school, I used to sometimes almost lecture the students on how they just needed to go to bed earlier. Now I've been teaching psychology for the past 1 3/4 years, and I have a better understanding of the research behind sleep. And I know that now I understand that teenagers they're not just being undisciplined or stubborn when they don't go to sleep at 9 or 10. They're actually just doing what their bodies biologically are predisposed to do. They're biologically driven to go to bed later and wake up later. That's just how their bodies are wired. And that's just the circadian rhythms that they're dealing with. And yet, I think many of us had limited understanding of that, that I'm included. But I think it's something that now we're seeing more and more in the research, and it's becoming more and more part of public discussions, and it's even a recent article in CNN on this. Increasingly, we're seeing school districts around the country that are actually responding to the research and recommendations from organizations like the American Academy of Pediatrics on this, which has recommended since 2014 that we shouldn't start, that middle school and high school should not start any earlier than 8:30. So that's the very earliest that they should be starting. And I know actually the top sleep scientists in the country argue for a much later start time than that. But so the reason I'm bringing this up today, and I wanted to write something formal, but I've been a little pressed for time, but I also know that this is a timely topic because we're starting to look at school schedules for next year now. And before those get finalized, I wanted to just make this pitch. And I'm happy to send some links with some footnotes, and really write up something more formal. But what we've seen in the research, from according to the American Psychological Association, here are some of the benefits of later school start times in middle school and high school. You see better increased attendance rates. You see decrease in students sleeping during instruction, which is great. We see, along with that, better student attention. I mean, these are things that are scientifically, we've got a lot of data to back these up. Increase in GPA, increase in state assessment scores, increase in college admissions test scores. We see a decrease in disciplinary action, decrease in student-involved car accidents, and maybe most importantly, increase in quality of student-family interaction. So I think, and the research on this is so compelling. And I really would love to see this really explored as we think about the schedules for the middle school and high school for next year. And I've talked with a lot of people about it. And the thing that comes up over and over, I understand it's been talked about in the past. And the thing that seems to hold things up is sports. That's what I'm hearing. And I can tell you that, I did coach baseball for a year and then a little bit last year before we got shut down. But I know that with that, there were some schools that we played that we just always started later. When we knew on the schedule, we may have said we're going to start at 4 o'clock. We didn't start at 4 o'clock when we played those schools. It just, we might have a 4:15, a 4:30, but we still got the game in. We still ended, and we got home and and everybody went about their lives, and it's happening. And there are districts around the country that are doing this. They're finding ways around
Dan, in my, I think, second year on the board did change the starting time at the high school to be much later. There are some issues, of course, with busing and the, I forget whether it's called the A period or the very early period, before the first academic period. But I think we moved everything back quite substantially. Part of it was the Board of Health was sending us that same literature. If you would send us the literature, I think we would all be happy to look at that again. And it wasn't only sports. I mean, it was sports, but it was also, what do you do about busing when when you have groups of kids have to come different times? In any event, I'd be very happy for us to have another look at that. So okay. I thank you. I thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I'll put it all together and send it to you.
Thank you. So thank you very much. And briefly, please.
Yep, just super briefly. I think this is amazing. We have all this literature, in psychology. We have recommendations of doctors, and now we've had a chance to see it play out in our own homes. I have 2 teenagers, and my God, is it different. I know the busing situation is tough because we rely on sort of using buses that other districts aren't using for, a 20-minute period. So we have to like pick odd times sometimes, but I really, really hope we can work this out. It is
Okay.
just so much nicer.
Yeah, and I've seen it myself with my grandkids, you know, who are middle school students, who the one who has Zoom is sleeping a lot more than the one who doesn't. But I want to move on. This is the public time to speak. Board members, we can talk about this later. I really want to move the public through. And Chris, I'll call on you later. All right, to talk about this if you'd like. So public, other speakers, please. And seeing none, Chris, why don't you take the floor? Since we're not anywhere, unmute yourself. We're not anywhere close to the time.
Well, I was just going to ask Dr. Taylor if we could ask our athletic director again about the possibility of all the towns moving the sports schedule just a little bit later, because this is the time now that the sports schedule gets made for next year. Maybe if all the districts said the same thing at the same time, we could make some progress.
It's a terrific idea. I'll check in with Craig Gervin to see if there's been any traction lately on that issue.
Chris, thank you. So I see Mary Botion up next, so please unmute yourself and take the floor.
Yeah, hi. Mary Botion, Madison Avenue. I have a couple of questions on the follow-up to several communications that have gone back and forth the last 2 weeks, in particular, back and forth to the district from many of us out here as parents. There was a letter signed by 50 parents, very concerned about the ongoing lack of instruction on Wednesdays. And one of the questions I have is in the response from the district, we had asked about, why couldn't the extra support be provided to students from 8 to 9 and or from 1 to 3, which are regular school hours. And the answer came back, additional academic support groups and individual sessions are not avoided at any time of the day, except for the contractually obligated prep and lunch period staff and faculty are assigned. But in fact, we really are avoiding 3 hours a day. So I think that really deserves a further discussion. So that is one of the comments I have. And in addition to that, the issue of having kids on a wait list to come back in person. And it's wonderful that more kids want to come back. And of course, we should be doing everything we possibly can to get these kids back in school. The fact that we're so close to the end of the year should not be a reason to avoid doing anything that would get things more normal. Again, it was a little discouraging that one of the comments came back from the district that making a 4th change to the schedule with less than 2 months of school left would only provide disruption. Well, again, many of us are feeling that the amount of disruption that has occurred to these students, not having new instruction on Wednesdays, not being in school in person, that far outweighs the disruption of perhaps a 4th modification to what we can do between now and the end of the year. To these points as well, the issue of, I had asked, can principals and assistant principals provide coverage for classes when teachers are unavailable, either in person or remote? And, I was very pleased to see that that is possible in Highland Park. The other question I have is, can guidance counselors also fill in? But regardless, given we do have 4 schools, we've got principals, assistant principals, I hope that we are not discounting using these very qualified, capable people to fill in where we need them. For example, it was really terribly discouraging after only 48 hours of in-person instruction for the high school to then be closed another week after spring break. What we really need to look at, can our principals and assistant principals and hopefully guidance counselors can they fill in these types of circumstances rather than, again, we close down completely? This also leads me to the issue of trying to get some of these kids in the queue that are on the waiting list to come in, you know, in terms of space issues. I asked about the gyms, the cafeterias, the auditoriums. The answer came back saying that they're all being, you know, fully utilized. Well, are they being fully utilized for teaching spaces? Even in the gym in the high school, for example, you know, one of my kids is in-person gym class. There's only 9 kids there. It seems that it would not be unreasonable maybe to close off half the gym for those 9 kids that are there in person, and then maybe the other half of the gym could be used for teaching, just to help us squeeze something out for the end of the year, between now and the end of the year. I don't think we should discount anything, you know, just because, quote, there's only a few weeks left. So those are my issues, questions, comments. Oh, and the last thing is, again, related to the waiting list. I'm sorry, I know it's kind of a comprehensive list of questions, but these are complex issues. We've been dealing with them all year. I was a little concerned seeing that on the wait list. It says we'll be giving special education students the priority, then English learners, language learners, then low income, then other students. And again, I know there's no easy way to try to get everybody back at once. I think we need to do more, like I said, with spacing, what we have available in these huge rooms. But also, has there been a racial impact study or assessment conducted in taking this approach? Will this approach adversely affect our minority students? No matter what reason we are for keeping people out, does it have a disparate racial impact? And I think we need to look at that. And if it does, we've got to go to plan B on that. You can't just keep everybody on the waiting list this way.
Mary,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to just tell you and others who've commented on some of these, these decisions are in the hands of the superintendent, who is Dr. Taylor, who's very capable. And not only in normal times would they be in the hands of the superintendent, and he works closely, Scott works closely with the board on these, but these are in his hands. We cannot go into the schools and micromanage classrooms or schedules, etc. And we trust that he's doing the best job possible. Further, I would say, in the time of the pandemic, our pandemic report was given by the governor and the commissioner of education specifically to the superintendents around the state. So that those guidelines that were made for the district and had to be approved by the commissioner of education and the county superintendent were done by the superintendent. Dr. Taylor is in a terrible situation. All of us are in a terrible situation. Some folks are saying open the schools more. Well, the kids have to be a certain distance apart. Other people are saying close the schools. It's too dangerous. You know, Scott gets letters from both teams. And this is like Goldilocks, you know, it's really difficult. So
yeah, well, there's no debate of that.
I don't want to debate you. I don't want to debate you. Please. I'm just trying to respond. This is very difficult. The board leaves. So when you say district, this is all I'm trying to say. When you say district, if you want to discuss this, which I know you have, discuss it with Dr. Taylor. Discuss it with Dr. Taylor. The board has a lot of business to do tonight, and we're happy to listen. And some of us might even agree on some points with you, but it's very complex and it's in his hands. And we trust that we have a very, very capable superintendent of the year in the county last year as the person running the district. So Christine Hirsch, please.
Hi, Christine Hirsch, 333 Felton Avenue. I wanted to follow up on something from last week, circling back to the track. I know it was, I brought it to your attention about the track being not usable, and I was hoping to get some information on how we can advocate. I think you were going to send Rebecca Hirsch something, so we knew who to potentially contact, or rather she suggested that, you guys could share who our town can reach out to. And I didn't know if that was a possibility or something that might be in the works. And then I'd still have one other question.
Sure, Christine, I sent a message and I guess I got my people confused. Emily Tenenbaum asked me that question in writing right after the meeting. And I sent her a very detailed answer, which then I stepped back from a bit because the town is, so we were not given the money by the county, which we believed we would get. And when I say we, I mean the borough and the school district. The county 10 or 11 or 12 years ago gave the district and the borough half the money to upgrade the field and track as a grant to the town, to the borough. And then the borough and the schools each kicked in a quarter. They have turned us down. And the borough, I would say, I hate to put it this way, you could talk to the mayor. The mayor has been talking to the county now for many months. And they
do you think she would be the best person to give us that information so we can disperse it?
Well, yes, she knows the names at the county and we don't. They won't talk to us at all. There is a problem though. They have unequivocally turned us down. We are now being told we must find the money ourselves, and we are now finding the money ourselves. But it's delayed it.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that.
Many hours on it. I've spent many hours on the phone talking to the borough, talking to our internal administration, other board members have.
Right.
We have money we've set aside. We think we can, and it's complicated because we're getting all this federal money and it's not clear what we can use it for yet. But this is at the top of all of our lists. We have to fix.
All right. No, thank you. I don't need to hear anymore. I really appreciate hearing that. But just I think your town, I think, would have your back if we could help. We just need to know how.
I'm sorry. I thought Emily was acting as a conduit for the folks.
Yeah.
I'll
That's all right.
I don't know. I could if you drop me an email at my board address, I'll send you the information that I sent her. It's a little bit more comprehensive, but
I can do that.
The real answer is the borough was told after numerous meetings, the board that decides who gets the grants turns you down, and there's no one there to talk to. They are not going to help you. And they have reasons, there's complex reasons. The borough doesn't own the land, the district owns the land. And that last time they gave it to us, even though that was the case this time, they may not have wanted to. We don't know. They won't tell us. Oh, they won't tell the borough, but it's a terrible situation. On the other hand, we put aside about 400,000 and the borough has access to about 400,000. And that will get us a good bit of the job done. And it's just a question of can we, and how much can we use of the federal money we've been allocated, the ESSER 2 CARES money. And that's what we're looking at now, or the new Biden money. I mean, they're giving us millions of dollars.
No. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I think you have explained it, and I'll send you an email. No, that's all right. I appreciate that you're passionate.
I want to get this done. We all want to get the whole board wants to get this done.
No, and I think you have a lot of people that would want to help. But moving on to my other question, I know in the middle school and high school, they're able to participate in gym in the gymnasium. At both Irving and Bartle, they're doing gym next to their desks. And I'm just wondering why there's no movement. I reached out to the principal and I haven't yet heard back from her. She was going to look into it. But is there a reason that Irving and Bartle students can't be doing gym in the gymnasium?
You want me to answer that question, Mark?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So we, as a we have two stakeholder groups who I consulted about this, and we all felt that we risked potential contact if we had our elementary special subjects teachers popping into the classes as they do much more prevalently than the upper grade schools. So rather than have even the music teacher, for instance, who's still teaching virtually, go to what amounts to something like, well, I think they see every class in the course of a week. So that's something like 24 different groups. We felt it was safer to just maintain that that distance, virtual and in-person distance. So that was the rationale, Christine.
Scott, you know, with the numbers now changing and teachers coming back, it might pay to look in the next 3 or 4 weeks as they come down to see if you could change that in the ordering of things.
Okay, that's certainly something I can investigate.
Yeah, no,
I'll
I
do
think
that
the students would really appreciate that, because I know my middle school, when he comes home from gym, he's sweaty and like he's enjoyed it because he's run around. So I just think I want to advocate for the kids. That's all. Thank you
Sure.
for your time.
Christine,
I have a
thank you so
leadership
much.
team meeting tomorrow morning, so I'll bring this up at that time.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
No, absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I do not see any other speakers, and we are just about at a half an hour, close to it. So I'm going to move on in the agenda. So we are now going to go through our board action items. So we'll go through A, B, and C. We'll take another public comment. And then from there, we'll actually vote on the items in the, actually A, B, C, D, E, and F, excuse me. It's an old habit of mine when the board had, in fact, only three main committees. So let's go on to curriculum and instruction. Michelle, could you unmute yourself and take over, please, and review those items?
Yes, thank you, Mark. We only have 2 items under curriculum and instruction. The first is the approval of a new music course, Introduction to Acoustic Guitar, at the high school. And this would be an elective for grades 9 through 12, counting as 5 art credits, and it would start September 1st, 2021. Number 2 is the approval of the field trips, and that is as attached in the agenda. And those are the only 2 items I have on curriculum.
So, any board members have any comments or questions? Whoops, somebody is unmuted somewhere. I guess, okay, pardon me, everyone. So with that said, I'm going to move on to finance and facilities. Most of these were discussed last time. The number 2 is a new athletic bill list for March 16th to April 30th for $2,663.50. Item 4 is a cafeteria bill list from April 3rd through 9th for $37.99, 12 cents. Item 6 has a new section and something we discussed about a month ago that was put off, barring any discussion we might have, for Institute for Multisensory Education, Orton Gillingham training. Pardon me, items. 14 was a community grant for $1,000 to support the wonderful GLOW program at the high school under the direction of teacher Hannah Pollack in their efforts to provide life skills and vocational resources to the students to complement their programming in community-based instruction, structured learning experience, and the 12+ program. I want to say that I have visited the GLOW program and it was truly amazing. I had lunch with the teachers and kids. This was before the pandemic. They made pizza and it was just really a great place to be. And I've also seen the teachers and the kids again before the pandemic around town. So this is a great program and thank you Walmart for the $1,000 because every bit helps. Item 15 is a proposal for replacement windows. This is windows in the middle school. And item 16 is the acceptance of the low bid using CARES ESSER 2 grant. CARES ESSER 2 is the money allocated by the Congress in the waning days of 2020 in December. And the district got applying for a large grant, but we've been allocated how much we can get. So we have to, as much as possible, find things related to improving the school district that we can use this money for. Item 17 is the approval of dental insurance renewal. And this is Delta Dental for 2 years, a 7.3% increase. But this is the first increase we've had in rates in 10 years. As opposed to, by the way, the medical insurance increases, which as a whole have gone down because the whole plan has changed. The state put in a new medical insurance plan for our staff. But in years gone by, we would have 7, 10, 12% increases every year. So this is over 10 years, quite a low average increase. And the last item is a non-public school security aid purchase for the Children's House Montessori. And this is $1,400 in funding, and they're using $1398.12 for two-way walkie-talkie radios. And this is funded not by us, but we have to approve it. It's funded by the school security aid bill, I think of 2015. And if they have additional costs, they'll pay for it. Okay, so with that, I did want to see, there were questions last time on the Orton Gillingham training. Do board members have questions about that or anything else on the Finance Committee list?
Mark, I can add that Michelle Rodriguez, our humanities supervisor, was in touch with Darcy, who initiated the questions, and Darcy was satisfied with the response.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, Darcy couldn't be here this evening. But she, in fact, is the person who asked. So it's very good that she did not have further questions. Great. So and I had a presentation of this program along with some other folks in the district, and it really looks great. So I'm very happy we're funding it. Ann, on to you for personnel, please.
Okay, thank you so much. So we did go over this last week, except where I will note 5, 6, and 7, we have some new resignations and we wish everybody well. 9, we have a new Spanish teacher in the high school.
Yay.
Yay. So that's fantastic. Welcome. New special education teacher, Ms. Radwan in the middle school. Welcome. An appointment and a resignation of a paras, number 12. I skipped number 11. We're adjusting the green team stipend. Skipping over number 12 now. Number 13, we have a new paralegal, Ms. James. 15 is also new, a temporary transfer. Let's see here. Number 24, new, that is, it's a standard thing we do, approving our doctoral level psychology practicum students who provide counseling services to our students. Number 25, we have a new MSW student intern. Number 26, we have additional hours for staff for the Title I after school enrichment programs. And number 27, I have some things from Linda to read in. So this is curriculum writing for the indicated grades, ESL and English. And what is missing is the following. Okay, the second to last line, Nelson Dana, it should say grade 6 to 8 advanced with a D. Critical information there for your vote. And we have the gap codes, which were not on here. This is going to be quite boring, but I'm just going to read through them for the record. I'm going to start with Ms. Schlesinger and go all the way down to Mr. McCrae. Okay, the gap code for Ms. Schlesinger is 11-000-221-104-070-1411. It's the same for Ms. Yeager. It's the same for Ms. Cheney. Ms. McInerney Lou has a new one, 11-000-221-104-085-1411. Ms. Dana, I'm sorry, Ms. Nelson. Ms. Nelson has the same one on both of her lines, 11-000-221-104-060-1411. Let's see, that's the same for for all 3 of Ms. Nelson's lines. And the final gap code for Mr. McCrae is 11-000-221-104-050-1411. Let me find my agenda again. Here we go. And that is all.
And thank you. Board members have any questions or comments? Okay, so now on to policies and regulations. Darcy isn't here this evening, so I guess I'll just, since I have the mic, I'll mention these. We did discuss these last time. There are a bunch of updates to policies. So we're reading in about 11 policies that are new. And these, in some cases, replace policies. So we're abolishing about 8 policies. And we discussed this last time, and we did not get any, the policy committee did not get any comments by any board members. But does any board member have any comments about this or questions? Okay, if none, Monique, do you have anything for equity and excellence?
No, nothing to add tonight.
Okay, thank you. So with that said, let's go back to number 12 and start voting. So just bear with me. So.
Point of order?
Yes.
We have public comment?
Yes, excuse me. That's why I was getting right back to my page, Linda, to see where we were. Yeah, so we'll do public comment first and then we will vote. That's the board action items, number 12. Number 11 is public comment again. I'm not going to read the public comment statement in. Again, you heard it half an hour ago. So anyone who has public comment, please raise your hand. I'll call on you, give your name and your address, please. So Mason Trin, please, you can take the floor.
Hi, how are you? This is Mary Trin, 214 South 2nd Avenue. I just had a quick comment, Mark, about what you said earlier on the decisions, you know, that most of the decisions are obviously made, of course, by Dr. Taylor as the superintendent. But my only thought was that I think the community kind of feels like whenever we want to share, you know, thoughts or concerns or that, oh, we should email the whole board and we should email, you know, of course, Dr. Taylor, but copy the board too, so that you guys know as well what the concerns are, you know, from the community. So your comment before just sounded kind of funny, like, oh, it almost made it sound like don't bother including us because we don't have anything, you know, we don't have any say in the matter. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not really sure what you meant by that, unless, because I'm sure you got, like you said, oh, some of us might have, you know, we might agree with you. I guess I just feel like maybe it'd be helpful when there are, you know, these public comments and letters that are written and stuff to hear more from the board members, because like we've elected all you guys too. So it'd be nice to know, well, where do you all stand on? Yeah, I'm not talking about any specific issue right now, honestly, but just in general. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, well, in a normal year, the president and vice president may meet with the superintendent once a week, maybe twice a week occasionally. We'll go over important issues. An important issue a few years ago that was brought up was the getting a later start time at the middle and high school. And we met, we discussed it. We made it very collaboratively, and we mostly make the decisions collaboratively.
Yeah, I guess maybe, you know,
look, just give me 1 second to finish. Yeah. I'm almost done. So some of the sports decisions, you know, should we run sports, you know, or some sports, what's safe, what isn't safe? What about the distance of the desks and the CDC? And we've got some of that in letters. Even the Wednesday issue, we get the message and we want to get the message. I want to know what the community is thinking. The rest of the board wants to know what the community is thinking. That's why at every meeting I say, if you want to get something to the board, just send it to board@hbschools.net and we'll all get it. And people on the board all of us have strong opinions. So we will talk to the superintendent. We'll say, you know, this is a good idea. In fact, I think you heard that just now in action when Christine mentioned the Irving and Bartle and the gym. And I said, Scott, you know, with the schools opening up more and teachers coming back, maybe you could make some changes along those lines. It's a good idea. You know, it's something, I didn't say this, that the board probably would support. And I didn't say that, and I'm not saying it now, but it's a good idea. And we do that a lot. So while some decisions, particularly pandemic decisions, because of the governor's decision, are the realm of the superintendent. We have a lot to say. And
Okay, well, that's good. Yeah, I think I kind of misheard or misinterpreted a little bit of what you said or how you kind of responded to that earlier.
I apologize. It probably was not said very well, but we collaborate on most everything. And we want to hear from the public. We want to respond to the public. When Dr. Taylor has said on a particular issue, not to pick an issue, but when he said, I've made the decision and this is what I think is good for the schools and the community. And he said that 4 or 5 times. And whatever the board has said to him, we will abide by his decision, because ultimately some things are his decision, even if we've given him input and we don't agree. And I'll give you a concrete example. On the sports, not everybody agreed on what sport to open and what time and place and how to configure it and so on. But he made decisions with our input. And I also would say that Ann and I, president and vice president, have adopted a method of meeting with the with Scott as a team, so that we're all up on it, and we include board members on lots of these issues. And we don't violate the quorum, but we definitely talk to chairs of chairs or people in a committee, like finance committee is going to have kind of a committee meeting in a couple of days on an issue. And we go over that, except we're not meeting once a week or once every 2 weeks or twice some weeks. We're virtually meeting Scott every day now because of the pandemic. And we all do take it that seriously. I mean it. It's really, I'm not complaining. I love it. And everyone on the board really it wants to do this, but it's like a full-time job. It's very serious at a strategic level. And with that,
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for bringing it up. I'm glad I could clarify. Christine, your hand was up next. And Ann, did you have something to say, Ann?
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, I see where Mary's coming from. And everything Mark said is absolutely right. I mean, there are times with some of these decisions where we've already had a big board discussion about it. And Mark and I have discussed it with Scott, and other board members have discussed it with Scott. And at a certain point, sometimes there's just no more to say. So I think sometimes that's why we don't get into a big discussion at the board table. I mean, I'll give you another example, the Wednesday issue. There's plenty of disagreement on the board about that, but we've been through it, we've discussed it, we've all made our arguments. So if you felt like there was a little bit of a shortness of response there, that might be one of the reasons. Is that everybody's sort of, given their view, and we're delighted to hear more because you guys have more new things to say and we want to hear them. But sometimes when Mary asked her question, Mary Botian, I think my feeling was there just wasn't much more to say that we hadn't already said to each other, to Scott, to the public. So apologies.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Ann, because I think that kind of what you said is helpful to. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
We still want to hear from you guys though, because there's, you have new information for us. So yes.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Christine, you have the floor.
Christine Hirsch, 333 Felton. I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention. One other thing, in regard to moving on next year with board meetings, do you think you're going to continue the forum to do them so people have the option to Zoom in and so forth? Because I think it's been really helpful for a lot of parents to feel a little bit more engaged and productive.
It's a great question, and I've been spending a lot of time thinking about it. I've gotten, there's some funny rules and regulations from the Commissioner of Education on running live board meetings right now. Our lawyer has said to us that we can not pay attention to some of the more ridiculous ones. And I shouldn't have even said that, but the point is we could run live meetings probably in May or June. And we could even run them where we allowed Zoom. We could run them where we're doing live streaming. I've been thinking a lot about it. I've talked to other board members about it. We haven't decided yet exactly what the format is. I think some of that will depend on the some of it will depend on the shape of this pandemic. You know, what happens over the next month or two. I think I might be ready this summer to start running meetings in person. I'd want the board to pretty much unanimously be on board with that. I don't want to tell a board member, you know, we're running it in person, and you know, we're excluding you because, you know, you don't feel safe. But we're thinking about it and we're discussing it, and perhaps, in fact, when this started, I early on I said I'm old enough, I'm not going. And I had my oldest friend, you know, died early on and from COVID, and I said I'm not going to any public meetings. You can Zoom me in. And by the time all of that dust settled, no one was running. So I didn't have to Zoom into anything. So we could do Zoom. I mean, it's possible technically. So the answer is we may do it. We're thinking about it.
Mark, I love the idea of a dual track, you know, so that people who prefer to come in can come in, and we could do it. I mean, I know live streaming is not as effective as all Zoom, you know, same with online learning and hybrid learning. But I'm sure some people aren't as confident on Zoom, and, you know, maybe members of the public don't have a Chromebook necessarily. So, I mean, that would be my personal ideal, but yeah, we haven't decided. So
if our kids can do it, we can do it too. I think we should.
Yeah.
And also, if we can send the kids,
I think we might want to like make room for people that don't have Chromebooks. It's not only members of the public. Sorry, it's not only parents with their kids' Chromebooks.
And if we can send the teachers and students into school, or invite them to go in,
right.
I feel like we could go in public, although some of us might be. I'm not uncomfortable anymore, but I was very uncomfortable, and again, because of my age, it was very touch and go, you know, at some point for people. But I feel now comfortable, and I think the board could feel comfortable doing it. We just have to decide how effective it would be. I think it would be much more difficult to get this number of people out in a public only. Monique, you, and then Jean Sinzak.
Yeah, just a quick question. I thought Christine's main question was whether we would continue to offer the Zoom platform, right? Okay, and that's what you also include in your response.
Yeah. Right. I'm haven't been very clear tonight, I guess. But yeah. I meant what I mean is what we're thinking about is not only you know, when we're live, when we're not live, when we're in person. Allowing a Zoom component.
Right, yeah, exactly.
About and talking to Anne and a couple of others, the question about when do we go in person? When do we keep the Zoom option? We've been talking about all of those things.
Good, yeah, and I would want to just say that it's an accessibility issue as well that we want to think about continuing to keep front and center. That this has opened up opportunities for families who may find it difficult to just access the meeting in person.
Yes.
So to keep this stream available would be wonderful.
Rob Magaziner?
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that, and I do think it's all worth having a conversation. I'd like to make sure that we have the technical people involved in this before we start talking about, you know, what we may or may not want to do, because I think the technical issues are ones that we will want to get out of the way before we say, yes, this is, you know, we're going to go in that direction, because it could become a real mess.
And if you remember, before our first Zoom meeting, the first time everybody that the board tried our first Zoom meeting, some of us insisted we have a trial run the week before with nobody except, you know, us and fake public members coming in, so we could see how it worked and that everyone was able to do it. And that's what you're saying now, Rob. And I think that's a great idea, that we really make sure we can do it right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There may be also, I just to follow up on what Monique was saying in terms of accessibility, I wonder if there are some, and again, looking at the technology, and you may know more about this than I, Monique, just in terms of some of the offerings that may be out there that could potentially help people who are at home, who can't either see or hear, potentially, you know, maybe things that we could make, you know, provide for our meetings.
Yeah. I mean, we
You
can
know,
certainly talk about that. I think Zoom is certainly one of the most accessible platforms that people in disability community really do have been behind even before this pandemic. So, I just think removing this option would be a really, I think it would be impactful in a negative way. So, I think we should just really try our best to make this work and do what we need to do technically to put it in place. And as you said, including other means of making our materials accessible as well.
Subtitles,
captioning. So yeah, all of these pieces. This is the time to really not go backwards, but to keep making our meetings more inclusive.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Monique. Thanks, Rob. Jean Sinzak. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong.
No, you got it. Yes, this is Jean Sinzak, 235 Grant. First, this is not my main comment, but I want to reiterate my support for a later start time that Dan raised. We lived in Seattle for 2 years and the start time was 9 a.m., which was a huge shock and culture shift when we got there, but was incredible. So I don't think 9 a.m. is feasible for a lot of people, but I do think a later start time is so helpful to the kids. I saw that. And I've been back and forth with Dr. Taylor on this. But I have a question that's a very practical concern about when all the teachers go back to school in the middle school and high school. I have 2 middle schoolers and a student in Bartle. They're all remote right now. And they've done very well this year, but I do have concerns about the experience of the kids who stay remote while all their teachers are in person and how that will be for them. And this may have been raised I'm sure this has been discussed, but a little bit more of a sense of that. Because I would like to see more kids brought back to school, but it's sort of a weird, scenario for them to think that all their teachers are going to be in. I know that sometimes when a teacher's in school, their attention might be divided. And so, what's their experience going to be like day to day? And I've raised this with Dr. Taylor. I obviously would like to see more kids brought back to school. And I know these are complicated decisions, but so then if we just get down to a super practical level, just raising the issue of what the experience is for kids who are not in school when all of their teachers are.
Would you like me to say a few words, Mark?
Yeah, please.
Jean, so first of all, thanks. The dialogue we've had has been spectacular. So I've been very, very helpful. In fact, some of the input you gave me, I leveraged to craft a Honeywell that's going to go out Wednesday night. So I hope to communicate more effectively some of the things that you suggested I put in words.
Great.
In a few days. First of all, so we've been operating this Zoomer model for about a month so far. The idea that teachers in person are zooming out to kids who are home while they've got like 4 or 5 kids in the classroom. And I've had a chance to walk around the halls a lot. And I mean, my visuals tell me things are working out fairly well. I mean, it's not obviously perfect. And I have not gotten any, to be frank with you, I have not gotten any feedback, good, bad, or indifferent about the effectiveness of that model, the Zoomer model. And knowing that I've gotten my fair share of critical emails about things we're doing, I have to assume that not getting a negative feedback is a decent sign that things are working out well right now. That teachers are able to have the 2 computers in front of them, operating their Google Classroom, whatever PowerPoint presentation they want to operate, while also having their Zoom room open on the second computer and managing the 4 or 5 students in the classroom. So that's going to continue through the rest of the year. We're speaking to your question about, I think you mentioned, and I know that Mary Batian asked this question earlier too, I might as well just address it now, about how we're going to get more kids back in. Just telling Mark Krieger earlier tonight, the local infection rate data is looking good so far. I mean, we're going to likely be down tomorrow in the teens over a course of 7 days. And if that's a trend that continues and we're getting closer to that magic 14 local infections in 7 days number that the CDC tells us is a safe standard to use to go to a 3-foot distance protocol, then we're going to do that real soon. And that way we'll be able to bring many more students from the wait list back in person. So I think I tackled both of your questions. And of course, I can always
Great.
email
That's
you
very
back
helpful,
tomorrow.
actually. That's really helpful. I appreciate that.
And the infection rate is down. I think the vaccine is having an effect. You know, folks who say, you know, I don't need to be vaccinated, or someone needs it more than me, or whatever, they are not helping us get to herd immunity. But once we get to or close to herd immunity, the numbers have really dropped through the floor in the last 10 days compared to 2 weeks or a month ago. I keep track of all of the numbers that come in from the state. And if that could continue, second part of Scott's answer about being able to have more kids come in, we can't force anyone per the state guidelines and our own plans, but I think many more people would come in if they saw the teachers in and the kids' friends coming in and so on. And that would be a good a prelude to the fall. So we're really hoping we can do that.
Yeah, I really appreciate both of you just saying that just now, because I think one of the concerns a lot of parents have had is that not getting that message consistently, just in the sense of feeling like it's a gray area. And a lot of us have kids asking us questions like what to expect. And, you know, it's one thing to say repeatedly, well, if the numbers go down, but that doesn't really mean a lot to a kid who sees movement in other ways. So thank you.
Thank you, Gina. I would say that the administration and Dr. Taylor and the board would like to get the kids back. You know, that's like a top priority. And we've really struggled and we've soul searched about these numbers. And then we get, you know, wave 2 and then wave 3, and the numbers are coming down and they're going up. But we really want to get the kids back and the teachers back. That is really a guiding principle. And we've been meeting a lot about it. With that said, Dan, if you'd like to take the floor again, please.
Thank you. And thanks for the backup, Gene. I appreciate your comment about your experience in Seattle. Actually, there's an article I read, a segment from NPR from 2018. It's titled "Sleepless No More in Seattle. Later school start time pays off for teens," and a lot of research right there in that. So NPR followers, check that one out. I'll include that in the links that I send you. I just wanted to build a little bit more, make a few more quick points on, you know, that I didn't get to say the first time. One is, you know, interesting thing about sports, you know, that being like the big argument is nobody disputes the fact that athletes perform a lot better when they get ample sleep. Like it's well known in the world of athletics, right? So I think this could boost our sports programs. We could actually be, you know, we will benefit. We could be, you know, progressive in many ways here. I think one of the most compelling studies, and this one, you know, just came out a few days ago, a couple weeks ago, April 15th, is a study of 28,000 students from Colorado. And in that study, and then they had real sleep data. I mean, they actually had them wearing bands, so they were getting some good sleep data. And what they saw is high school students, see, one of the misconceptions is that if you push the school start time later, that's going to push everything later. That's what, you know, like logically, it kind of makes sense but why people would think that. However, in reality, what happens is, you know, teenagers are not going to normally go to bed at 10 o'clock. It's just not going to happen for most biologically. And so when you do give them a later start time, they do end up getting more sleep. It's just what the data is showing. In that study, they averaged 45 minutes more per night, just by the fact that they delayed that school start time. And I know one of the arguments that I've heard logistically as well is that and this is, you know, reality I know for many families, is that high school siblings are providing care for the younger siblings and they need to pick them up from Irving and whatnot. And I was just thinking that, you know, I had 2 children that were at the Irving aftercare program, and I was wondering how difficult it would be to take, you know, those students and let them, you know, be part of that aftercare program for free until their siblings could pick them up. You know, let's say the high school were to get out at 3:15 or 3:30 instead of 2:40, then that sort of thing would help out. they just need a little time to be there. And the last thing I want to say, because I've heard this brought up, in argument for saying that, hey, let's keep things the way they were because we had this A period and then people did get extra sleep. But that's not everybody. In fact, that wasn't even half of our students. And I think it was only like a third of our students really benefited from the fact that they didn't have A period. So I think if we are really going to say that this is important and that, yeah, we want all these to improve the well-being of our students, we can't say, let's do this for just a fraction of them, for the kids that don't want to do music or don't have an A period class. That's all I have to say.
Dan, thank you. Thank you very much. And when you send us any information, we'll definitely look at it. We did move in and we did have the A period, and there were a lot of reasons. One of them was not athletic busing, but busing, that it might have taken 2 runs if we had some kids who had to come at different times, etc. But we'll certainly look at it again. Anne, you had something you wanted to say.
Just wanted to say that, yeah, my understanding was that we sort of use some of the unused bus time that other schools, are not using, to state that very awkwardly. So some school bus, is available at what time. It makes sense for our kids to start at that time, but clearly we can be creative. I mean, we need to recommit to that, I think. What Dan said about sports is absolutely right. I don't know how logistically that works out with the after school program, but that seems like a creative idea that maybe we could leverage. And if we could figure out this busing thing, man, it would be really nice. The other thing I wanted to say is, Gene Sinzak was talking about how it's sort of frustrating for the kids not to know when things are going to change. Mark, did you say, what is the number that the CDC says, what is the infection rate or the number of new cases the CDC says we have to get to in order for middle and secondary schools to go to 3 feet? Did you say that number?
I think the number, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe the number that Scott gave earlier, which is a run rate of under 14 cases in a 7-day period, and again, a run rate, we would, and it might be lower, might even be 10, then we're allowed to bring more kids in the middle and high school. And again, I don't remember where that little line, they had like a little extra line in their charts. So I'm not certain, but the number has to go, and we've been as high as 50 and 60. Right. So I don't know what the exact number is, and I don't certainly want to look it up in the middle of the meeting, but it's a number, let's say around, for whatever it's worth, around 10. And it can't be just 1 week, we had a good week. It has to be a steady run rate, and we want to have a fair idea that this is going to continue. At the moment, we are at 22 for the last 7 days. That's the lowest number we've been at for a while. We're not really close, but we have some days, 1 or 2 days with very high totals about to expire. In other words, go out of the 7-day period. So we could go as low as, tomorrow we could go as low as 10 or 12 in a 7-day period because we had a very bad Tuesday last week. Bad meaning very high number of infections, but we can't do it if we have 1 week that we cherry pick and say, wow, we did really well this week, so we're going to bring double the number of kids back. But we certainly, if it was 2 or 3 weeks, we could.
But I think for middle school students and high school students, what I'm going to do, Gene, is I'm going to actually show my kids where you can go to discovermiddlesex.com and they have the daily numbers in Highland Park. And then you can go, man, the CDC site I find very confusing, but there's a link to their weird array of red and yellow and green conditions and what they mean for different age groups. And there's a specific number or percentage, or that at least that you can derive from the population of Highland Park.
You have to derive it.
Right, you have to derive it. But that's something that if your kids are interested, they could look at that. My
it's
kids
a good math. By the way, it's a good math problem for anyone wanting to challenge their kids.
And one reason we need this to happen, we can't open schools the day we hit that number, of course, is that we need some time to prepare, right? And if it's going to go back up the second day, then
Right.
But it is kind of interesting, and just so the public really knows, in case it wasn't clear, we are following that CDC advice for secondary schools and middle schools, namely that if the rates are at a certain, if the rate is at a certain amount, we're not supposed to go down to 3 feet. So that's what we're waiting on.
Right. That's right. Rob, did you want to say something? Rob Magaziner?
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask Scott, Scott, whether you can weigh in on that, on what that number is.
Yeah, I thought it was 14.
14.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Thanks.
Below 14,
Yeah.
we can go to that 3 foot number, 3 foot distance among those students,
And
with masks and temperature checking and everything else.
And I think Mark would agree, if we get close to that number, 15, 16, we hover, I think it might be acceptable to still move in that direction. But it's something I would consult Mark and Ann about and go from there.
We would talk to other board members and get a feeling for it. I think I would, I won't speak out of turn, but I mean, I'd want to see it go below 14 and hover for a few days. And then if it goes above once, we keep going, we do it.
Right.
But I think it's just a sense of how to, work with you on it.
I'd have one other thing about Jean's comment about the hybrid learners. In other words, the people who are, about the all remote students who are attempting to watch a Roomer Zoomer thing going on. I mean, that's something we thought a lot about just because, racially speaking, there's a disproportion in terms of who wants to come back and who doesn't. We have a lot of Black students and brown students whose families would prefer to keep them at home. And so those students, when the teachers come back in, they're a little bit of a disadvantage, right? Because they're watching a Roomer Zoomer thing remotely. And it does decrease the quality of the instruction a little bit, in my opinion, to have a teacher with divided attention. So we need to keep an eye on that. And I hope people will, weigh in with their experiences, either with their teacher, their principal, or Dr. Taylor. We won't know if it's going badly unless people tell us. I know what's going on with my kids. I could see them on their remote days, when they still had 2 remote days a week, I could see them interacting with the teacher and the kids in class, and it seemed to be going pretty well. But I'm sure it's a teacher by teacher, room by room thing as people learn how to do it. So it's a problem that we're aware of, and I hope we'll continue to improve, and people will tell us if they're their kids are running into real trouble.
And thank you. I don't see any other public hands up, so I'm going to move on to the board action items. Michelle, could you move the curriculum and instruction items, please?
Sure. I'd like to move items 1 and 2 under curriculum and instruction.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Linda, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Ms. Gowan,
Yes.
Mr. Krieger,
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner,
Yes.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola,
Yes.
Ms. Preuss,
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich,
Yes.
Mr. Woodward.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So next is the finance and facilities. I'm going to move items 1 through 18. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Okay, Linda, could you call the roll?
Ms. Coleman,
Yes, I'm not used to being first. Sorry.
Ms. Gowan,
Yes.
Mr. Krieger,
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner,
Yes.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola,
Yes.
Ms. Preuss,
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich,
Member at
Yes.
large.
Mr. Woodward.
Yes.
Okay, Anne, could you move the personnel and communications?
Yes, I'd like to move items 1 through 27, 27 with the edits that I read into the record.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Linda, could you call the roll on these? Any questions or comments first? Again, sorry.
Maybe I'm supposed to abstain on any items related to Rutgers. Is that just 24 and 25, Linda?
Conflict?
I'm not sure.
Anyway, okay. If anyone sees any others, please let me know.
Do you have to? We've had other Rutgers people in the past who have not abstained.
Is this directly related to you?
Yeah, directly related to your work?
It's not direct. I just thought I wasn't supposed to vote on things that involved my employer. Anyway, out of an abundance of caution. I'm
Okay,
probably staying
you're
on 24
welcome
and
to
25.
do that. Could we do the roll, Linda, please?
Yeah, I was just trying to look through the agenda to see which one's related to Rutgers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Certainly 24 and 25.
It does seem like it's just 24 and 25.
Thank you.
Yeah, I believe it is. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola?
Yes.
Ms. Prus?
Yes.
Mr. Reslevich?
Yes.
Mr. Woodward?
Yes on all but 24 and 25, abstain on 24 and 25.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Okay, so since Darcy's not here, I guess I'll move items 1 and 2 in policies and regulations. Do I have a second?
That's
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for? Okay, so with none, Linda, could you take the roll on these?
Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola?
Yes.
Ms. Prus?
Yes.
Mr. Reslevich?
Yes.
Mr. Woodward?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so we are now going to go through the board liaison reports. If any board member has had meetings with any of these groups, that might, why don't you just raise your physical hand and I'll call on you. Anyone? Okay, so we're gonna go on then. I do not have a president's report, although I might say again, there is vaccine readily available Wednesday at the Reformed Church. It's Moderna. I had Moderna, it was fine. I didn't have much of a reaction either time. And let's get everyone vaccinated. And I know they're looking for people. It's amazing what's changed in the last few months. They can't find enough people. It's amazing. Do anyone have old business? Any board members have old business? Okay, seeing none. Does any board member have new business? Okay, so I think we're on to adjournment. I'll move to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
See you all next week. Some of you before that, but everyone else next week. Take care,
Take care,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.